prototype at least had like a half of a good season once. They've promoted Greg Williams to interim head coach with Freddie Kitchens. Household name Freddie Kitchens. That's what we're going to call him. His nickname is going to be household name Freddie Kitchens, the offensive coordinator of the Browns. What do you know? Because I'll tell you, I know nothing except that no matter who Greg Williams is and no matter who Freddie Kitchens is, there's no doubt in my mind they're better than Hue Jackson. So go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people do know Greg Williams, the Bounty Gate guy, just a fired-up character on Hard Knocks. So a lot of people recognize him, but Freddie Kitchens just a complete unknown. And on his Wikipedia page, which is one of the few sources of information on him, it calls him Freddie the Chef Kitchens. So who knows if that's even legit? I hope it is. It's a pretty badass nickname, Freddie the Chef Kitchens. Whether it is or not, who knows? But there are a few interesting little historical roots we want to just analyze. And again, I will just preface this by saying we are grasping at straws. We're not saying these are definite conclusions about what Freddie Kitchens is about to chef up for this Browns offense. But we do know they have some talent there still. They've been underperforming all year. Todd Haley got surprised.
All year?
Yeah, exactly. For like the last decade.
2.5 years.
Right,
well, yeah,
exactly.
like longer.
But
you talk about you grasping at straws. I'll tell you who's grasping at straws. The Cleveland fucking Browns are grasping at straws here. The chef is in the house.
But this is exactly the chef is in the house. This is the first year they've really actually had some promising talent and still underperformed, in my opinion, though. Which is why let's see what the chef can cook up with these ingredients. A few things just to know about the guy, and then what do I think it means for fantasy. One, he has some Bruce Arians roots. You love Bruce Arians roots. We're going to talk about the Cardinals offense, which under Byron Leftwich, a Bruce Arians disciple, just sparked a lot of gains, the best season bests for a lot of key players there with the Cardinals. So we're hoping that maybe the Bruce Arians magic fairy dust rubs off on Kitchens, who was his quarterbacks coach over from 2013 to 2016, which is coincidentally the time that Carson Palmer's career kind of had that renaissance and he really came back to life. And they had those huge explosive offensive seasons. So he was clearly a key part of that as the quarterbacks coach, and he was even played under Bruce Arians when he was at Alabama. Bruce Arians was his coordinator, and this Freddie Kitchens guy was his quarterback. So they clearly have some sort of history. You have to imagine Arians is somewhere embedded in Kitchens, which is only a good thing. Obviously that doesn't mean he's going to be Bruce Arians, but a lengthy track record with one of the brightest offensive minds that's produced some real fantasy monsters over the years cannot be considered a negative. But then on the flip side, Freddie Kitchens has legitimately no coordinating experience. He's been around football for 20 years in the college level and then the pro year combined, and he has never once been promoted to a coordinator role, which has to sketch you out a little bit. He's never crafted his own offense. He's never called his own plays. He's served as quarterbacks, tight ends, and running backs coach over his NFL career, but still, that's a pretty big jump, especially to jump into a dumpster fire mid-season. That's not the setup or recipe for success for a Kitchen. Never mind Freddie Kitchens. So it's a greater chance that this offense just continues to implode, probably, given this type of setup. But really, how much further can you sink down, considering how much they've underwhelmed despite adding so much talent this year? It's still definitely noteworthy that he's never been a coordinator at any years. But the number 3 thing, the last thing to know about him, is he has called plays once. And that was preseason week 4 this year. And it was actually a pretty dominant performance. Yes, this is preseason week 4. I get it. We are clasping at straws. You never want to make a definite conclusion off of preseason. But still, it doesn't hurt that in that 4th preseason game, the team racked up 35 points, 422 total yards, and 22 first downs, which were all season highs in a regulation game. The Raiders' OT game then exceeded that. But still, other than that, it's the second best game this offense has had. Again, yes, fourth preseason game. I get it. It's all the scrubs out there. But Baker Mayfield did play. He had 2 drives, and they got points on both of them, strung together 2 scoring drives, 138 yards, moved very efficiently. Nick Chubb capped that off with the score. Nick Chubb was, again, the running back for this running back coach. So what to draw real quick out of this? Baker Mayfield, I think, benefits. I mean, former quarterback and player in terms of Freddie Kitchens was. We've seen that Matt Nagy, a former quarterback, and then Mitch Trubisky really help establish that rapport, that comfort level. And again, Carson Palmer had that career renaissance. under Freddie Kitchens as his quarterback coach. I don't think any of those are negatives for Baker Mayfield. I expect, Todd Haley, a very stubborn-minded guy. I bet Freddie Kitchens will be much more welcoming, kind of allow Baker Mayfield to be part of that game planning process and really just work into what he does best, whereas Haley might not have been so open-minded and let just somebody else put their fingerprints on. I think Baker Mayfield will have a lot more control moving forward, which I don't think is a bad thing. He's a smart guy, knows what he does well. I expect this to be a positive for Baker Mayfield, even if it's not a huge one. And then the running game. Is it going to be a workhorse like David Johnson, or are they going to maybe revitalize Duke Johnson instead of just giving Nick Chubb that full 3-down horse roll? That remains to be seen. It can't be a negative necessarily for Chubb. I think he still gets those early down carries. But what I expect it to be is more of a revival for Duke Johnson. Again, one of the most dynamic pass-catching backs over these last 3 years, has been rotting this entire season, just completely misused and underutilized. I can see Freddie Kitchens kind of splitting this guy out wide more often, recognizing we don't have a ton of talent. We need to use our running backs more creatively, just as Arians had before him. So those would be the two areas I'd look for in terms of fantasy improvement. Might be the running backs and Baker Mayfield to go alongside it. That's all we know. That's probably the most in-depth Freddie Kitchens report you'll get out there, because I looked for more and I couldn't find anything. This was pieced together through a ton of different little random sources I found. Hopefully this helps out, though, and hopefully, there's nowhere to really go but up. So I'm excited just to see what happens here for the Browns moving forward. What are your thoughts on Freddie Kitchens, Matt?
Well, first of all, I think excited is maybe pushing it a little too far as like what I'm looking forward to. I'm intrigued, I guess. I'm fascinated by the decade-long train wreck that is the Cleveland Browns. What do I think of Freddie Kitchens? I like him. I like him because he reminds me a lot of me, because neither one of us had ever had a coordinator job before today. And so we come from the same camp in that respect. We have exactly the same amount of experience in that respect. So could you put me in there at head coach and do better than Hue Jackson? Probably about as well.